Good morning. I'd like to start by saying how much I've enjoyed listening to the other speakers tell their stories. And although it's pretty nerve-wracking being asked to come up here, God has used even the process of me answering the questions as a time of good self-reflection as to where I started, where I am, and where I'd like to be in my Christian walk. My becoming a Christian has been a long process, 49 years long. I promise to give you the shortened of shortened versions. However, if it gets too long, I give Pastor Len permission to give me the hook off the floor. Hopefully that won't be necessary. My journey had a bit of a different beginning in that I was not raised in a Christian home. I was an only child to two wonderful parents who raised me with good morals and to be kind, generous, and giving. My dad had a Christian upbringing but turned away from his faith and the church when a hurtful incident made him become estranged from his entire family. He had a strong faith in God the Creator, but believed that you could learn more about God through living in and caring for His creation than from going to church or reading the Bible. I had a fun, adventurous, and fairly privileged childhood until at the age of 12, my dad, only in his early 40s, had a massive heart attack. While he was still in the process of recovering, my mom was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer and given a very, very poor diagnosis for recovery. Determined to survive, she entered a treatment program, which for the next 2 years seen her being away from our home for extended periods of time. And when she was at home, her health was so poor that she really didn't have any quality of life. While other kids my age were out being kids, I was home tending to a house, cooking, and doing battle with an ornery wringer washer machine who bit my fingers more times than I care to remember. I grew up quickly in those 2 years, but we had happy times in our home, although many lonely times for me. It was during that time that I first learned about Jesus from a kindly elderly man who used to ride around on a rickety old bicycle. Its basket was overflowing with papers, books, and his Bible. We sat and talked one day in a park, and the conversation came around to Jesus. He told me that Jesus was the Son of God, had been sent here to die on a cross for our sins, and that it was only by believing in him that one could enter heaven. After hearing this, I prayed the sinner's prayer with him and gave my heart to the Lord. I dug out a little red Bible I'd been given at school years later and had never opened, and enjoyed reading the parables of Jesus. And although I didn't understand a lot of what I was reading, those were happy times. They were short-lived, though, as one day I heard my mom and dad having a heated argument about my Bible reading. Probably not argument, just heated words about my Bible reading. My mom was defending me, but my dad was standing stern in the fact that no good would come of it, and he didn't want me to become a hypocrite or be hurt by the church. Not wanting to cause any more difficulties in my home, I put my little Bible away and went back to the ways I'd been taught. A few years later, I met Rick. He was funny, kind, and smart. And there was something different about him. He had a gentle way and respectfulness for others. And soon into our friendship, he told me he was a Christian and had learned about Jesus in the Peterborough Free Methodist Church from his Sunday school and CYC leader, Jim Hicks. I was mildly interested in what he told me about his beliefs, but was quick to tell him I had different beliefs and they served me well. Years later, he told me that was almost a deal breaker in our relationship. But I guess my prickly charm and stubborn ways must have been too much of a match. And 38 years later, he's still my best friend. Today we celebrate our 35th wedding anniversary. Despite our differing beliefs in God, we had a strong and happy marriage and many fulfilling years raising our son together. I tried many times over the years to change Rick's way of thinking, but to no avail. This last part of my journey is the most difficult one because to this day I'm really not sure exactly what happened. In 2009, I needed surgery, and there was an unanticipated problem during my surgery with my anesthetic. And when I woke, I was told that I had been in some dangerous waters and to avoid general anesthetics for the rest of my life. I did awake, though, to feel good. There was actually something different inside me. Rick thought it was the morphine, but I knew it was something else. That night, as I lay alone in my hospital bed, I felt Jesus in my heart. I wasn't sure why he was there, but it felt safe and warm and good. I have to admit, though, that I spent the next 6 weeks of my recovery trying to shut him out. I don't really know why. Maybe it was a battle against good and evil for my soul, but thankfully Jesus won. It appeared that he'd taken up residence in my heart, and my mind whirled constantly trying to figure out the wherefores and the whys. Had he been with me right from that day that I prayed the prayer with the bicycle man? Or had I subconsciously called out to him from my difficulty and my surgery? I still ponder these questions all the time and guess I'll never have the answers, but it caused me to seek him out. I started reading the Bible, researching the Christian faith, and listening to online sermons. By now I'd given my heart to the Lord anew and afresh, but something was still missing. This brings me to the question about church. While listening to Charles Stanley's sermon on worship, he said that you could not be a healthy Christian and be a lone wolf. Those words rang in my heart because that was exactly what I felt like, a lone wolf. I had not told anyone about my newfound faith, and many days felt like I was floundering in a sea of unknowns and was surely going to drown at some point. Charles Stanley said we were created by God to be in fellowship with other Christians, worship together, and bear one another's burdens. So I finally told Rick what had been going on and said I thought I was ready to come to church. So here we landed. I'd never really been to church other than to attend a few weddings, funerals, and baptisms, and I really didn't know what to expect. I was pleasantly surprised to find a lot of warm and welcoming people, many who remembered Rick and his family, though it had been years since they'd attended here. Pastor Lloyd's sermons struck a chord in my heart, and I knew that I'd figured out a big piece of the missing puzzle that I'd been trying to unravel. This is where I belonged, where others could help me in my newfound faith, where I could learn and grow. I also find church is just such a good grounding point. We have so much outside noise in our lives during a week that it's always nice to come into church and feel like we're starting our week anew and afresh. I find if I come expectantly to church, that God will use whoever is speaking and whatever they're speaking about to touch me in some way. It has been through church where I've met my strongest mentors. Shortly after coming to church, we attended Bible study, and a combination of Pastor Lloyd's awesome teaching and meeting strong Christian influences in our life, like the Hicks, the Babcocks, Helen Jensen, Barclay and Bernice, and some who've since gone to be with the Lord, like Thelma Edwards, Thelma McPhail, Pastor Cook, and Myrna Timmons, set me down the right path. They shared their faith, provided us with encouragement and good reading materials and good, strong advice. A few years after coming to the church, I felt moved to start working with youth. This was something way outside of my comfort zone, but I was mentored by Holly Raymond, Mike Parrington, and Carol Donaldson. There were times I felt totally inadequate to be working with these precious young people, but these three provided me with the support I needed to press on and grow, and they're still always there for me. I would not be doing anything in the church today without those people's love and guidance. As far as habits I've developed in my Christian journey, I would definitely say that prayer is by far the most important. Learning how to talk to God, and more importantly, how to listen for his prompting, is really important to me and much a part of my daily life now. Rick and I also like to start the day together with a devotional. It's just a good way to come together through God as a couple. I also like to do regular reality checks. Am I giving as much time to God as I am to my iPad, my phone, and other outside distractions that enter our lives? And am I taking time to see the opportunities that God's putting in front of me? These are some of the things I find that keep me close to God. My advice to new Christians would be to get connected with a good church and get involved as soon as possible. As I discovered early in my walk, it's the fellowship piece that keeps us connected and growing, and where you'll find your strongest mentors. Look for volunteer opportunities and start learning what serving looks like, and mostly to remember to keep close to God through prayer and reading his word. It's normal for there to be times when he feels far away. I learned to realize that those are the times that we're walking from him. He never moves. He's always with us. It's us that steps away from him. But the good news is he's always waiting for us to step back towards him. And for more mature Christians, I really don't feel I'm qualified to give advice to. I would say, don't become complacent. No matter what your age or stage in life, God can use you. Every day can bring new opportunities if one looks for guidance from the Lord. Keep your eyes and ears open for the ones he places in our paths, and never miss an opportunity to share the good news that has become part of our daily lives. I have so much to be thankful for in my life and how God has changed me, softened my heart, not just towards others, but shown me not to be so hard on myself. I am learning as time goes on to give up my worries and cares to him and not try to take the world on my own shoulders. My journey as a Christian in this church has now taken me through attending Bible studies, prayer groups, going on missions trips to New Brunswick, and riding on a bus full of rambunctious kids on Wednesday nights, spending time with some wonderful special teens on Monday nights, and the honor of serving on the church board. I look forward each day to what God has in store for me as I continue my journey, and thank each and every one of you for the part you've had in it.